All right. Well, I think we're kind of live, except this is not working for me yet. Are you live there? There we go. Okay. Hi, hon. Happy Sunday.
Happy
Uh,
Sunday.
if this technology doesn't make us get into a fight, I think we'll be all right. We're gonna make it. Um, well, hey everybody. Welcome to. We don't know what we're calling these yet, but it's certainly a daily conversation. This is just a peek into Alice and I debriefing random phone calls and Zoom calls that we've had this week with other entrepreneurial couples, and we thought we would bring you guys into it a bit. So we do some of the lessons learned, and really we've just met so many amazing couples recently, and the focus has been we've kind of put out there to the social world and our network, like, hey, if you are an entrepreneurial couple, if you are life partners and business partners, regardless of industry, although we have a lot inside of real estate in that, then we want to talk with you. And we've been having these conversations, and in a way, what we're listening for is what are some of the secrets, like what makes it work? What are some of the common pitfalls that every entrepreneurial couple struggles with? And we just want to share a little bit today on some of the recent calls we've had and what we want to appreciate, what we want to acknowledge about some of these couples, and what we've been learning. Anything you want to add to that?
Yeah, I would say, first let's just define entrepreneurial couple, because I think that could be seen in a lot of different ways. And when we're talking about entrepreneurial couples, we're talking about couples a lot like us that both work together in the same line of work, in the same business, because there are lots of different forms, right? Like you can be an entrepreneurial couple where you each have your own business, or one is the entrepreneur. But we're really looking at couples that are working within the same business that would see themselves as business partners.
Yeah, and then probably somewhere along the way there, we met some couples that like worked absolutely side by side. They kind of went on every appointment together. They were driving in the car together every day. And when we talk to those same couples now, they're like, well, I mean, yeah, we still think we're an entrepreneurial couple, but the world is so broad now. We have kind of had to find a way to divide and conquer, and so-and-so's managing this silo of our business, and I'm managing this silo. But what we know is this: when entrepreneurial couples get together, and we've got to have like this business style conversation at 4:00, and then we try to like take that hat off and go have date night at 6:00. That's really tricky, right? Just kind of having all of it together, and so that's really what we want to speak to, and what we've been looking to learn about. So let's share a few. Alice, we can start out with this couple we talked to this week. 43 years married.
Yeah.
I mean, just like totally an inspiration for us, right? Like as we're crossing through 25 this year, and I feel like every time we find a couple that is a few years beyond us that still loves each other, and we're like, wow, like, I mean, we just see that the years get better as time goes on, and it's like, don't quit, your best years are ahead of you. The little struggles are just worth it. What did you take away from that conversation?
Yeah, I mean, we spent a lot of time with them. I mean, their kids are obviously grown, and there's grandkids and such in the picture now. So we did kind of a rewind with them of, what was it like when the kids were young, and, that whole journey. And one thing that they've always been really clear on was that their relationship with each other trumped everything else. Like they knew that, they weren't going to let a kid come in the way or a client come in the way of their relationship with one another. Like they just really prioritized that the entire time, and they were both very much on the same page related to it.
That's one of those things that sounds so simple. You and I have said words like that to each other. We go to conferences. We're like, make sure your relationship comes first. And I actually wonder though, in the moment, what that really feels like for couples, because we both know couples where we're sure that their relationship came first, right? They would be agreeing with this right now, but from the outside looking in, sometimes you can see where like something in the business became it was almost easier to win in business than it was in the relationship. So one of them just started to focus more on the business, or there started to be a little bit of competition, even of who can be on more podcasts, and whose name is really in the brighter in the lights, whose name comes first on the signs, all that kind of stuff. And it's heartbreaking to see us like forget something that is so simple. I think probably inside of our relationship, we notice it in like, okay, does our relationship come first? Well, yeah, but the kids need something, or yeah, but the client needs something. I mean, we're not immune to these challenges.
Yeah. Well, as a coach, I think one that I see a lot in this regard is, when the dollar is involved, when there's, like the client is demanding or the client needs something. And I see couples like cancel vacations or, cut vacations short because the client needs something. And it's like, well, the business needs it. And it's like, well, wait a second, but what does the relationship need? Because the relationship rarely will ever scream and say like, oh yeah, like, let's put that trip first. Yeah. So I see that happen all the time when it comes to, oh, well, the client needs this thing. So let's not go on the trip that we were going to go on there. We'll do it some other time. And they kick the can down the road.
Yeah. It's one of the things we've noticed with every one of these calls is it's like, what conversation is missing? Now, another way to understand that, this doesn't have to be this self-fulfilling prophecy. It's not like watching a train wreck happen. Every time you think, oh, wow, I just identified a conversation that's missing, you just write it down and just say, I'm committed to having these kinds of conversations more often inside of our relationship. A bit of language, and we actually got it some from this couple because we've known them for many, many years. And we've heard it elsewhere too, is this language of like, how do you view time? And this might be a decent place to talk about that. Like the difference of do you view time? Are you kind of the perpetual bunny, right? I mean, here, let's be real clear. We're recording this. And if you're watching this live, you're watching this on a Sunday. Now, Sunday is not typically a day that that either of us likes to work. But honestly, I'm more the perpetual bunny. It wasn't too hard. I don't know. We might get off of this StreamYard and I might realize like this really took some chips out of the bank for Alice. Right? Like that is possible, right? But perpetual is one style, and usually at least one person in an entrepreneurial relationship is perpetual. They can work a little bit every day. We're booking a trip right now to Europe in April, and we talk about how many days should we go, and I'm like, let's add a day on either side. Let's go longer. I'm like, doesn't matter. I'll work a little bit each day on the trip. I'll find a coffee shop and go work from there. That's perpetual energy. The other side would be finite energy. Mm-hmm. And I think what we realize in this conversation with this couple is really respecting when your partner has finite energy, even if they're normally perpetual, but if they're like, hey, can we be done with work for the night? Or can we be done with work for the week? Or can, it's near Christmas. Can we take a week off and be done for a bit? When that comes up, yeah.
Or there's another way to look at this of, well, so I'm finite in our relationship.
Yeah.
So if I'm going to take tomorrow off, you respecting that and not coming to me with some question about like, oh, well, you might say you're going to go do the work, but if you come and ask me questions, even though they're very benign, they seem very innocent. And they are like, you're trying to take stuff off my plate, but in an attempt to take stuff off my plate, if I have to go retrieve, information to give to you, to me, that occurs as work. And yeah. So I actually don't get the opportunity to re-energize the way that works for me. So I really need to be checked out completely.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's kind of speaking to that, because we're really talking a bit about almost boundaries right now. And another really helpful tip that I got from this couple was they plan one business lunch a week, which I thought was interesting how they even worded that, right? So once a week, somewhere Monday through Friday, they have a business lunch. Now, what they describe that as is that is a time to go work on the business, not in the business. It's during the week. They don't describe it and they don't feel like they're playing hooky from work. They didn't describe this as like a date night during the week where they should somehow feel guilty that they're not working. But I just love that they were actually able to structure. And what I noticed is in any sort of service industry, right? So like we have this background in real estate and everything. When it's a fire, it is absolutely a fire. And yet if we're at an appointment with one seller, mm-hmm. we would not pick up a phone call to answer a phone call from another seller. Like somehow even in our brains, we're like, that's crazy. That's that's blocked out time. But we don't have the self-respect when we're with our kids or with each other to view that time as just as valid. And it's like, so what I noticed in this couple is they're like, oh yeah, it's an appointment. It's in the calendar, and nothing backfills that appointment. It's just as valid and just as important as every other thing on our calendar. And what they spend that time doing is really kind of syncing up as the power couple, as the shared CEOs of the business. And they're spending time kind of looking at it from the 30,000 foot view, working on the business, not inside of the business. Anything else?
It's one of the roles that you have, right, as business partners. So they're showing up for each other in that role. So you wouldn't, if your business partner wasn't your spouse, you wouldn't just, kick that meeting and just not show up.
Yeah.
So it's like, no, as business partners, we're going to go have this opportunity to work on the business. And then that frees up time and energy and space to be able to then say, hey, okay, so when date night rolls around, we don't have to talk about all of these things. So like these things tend to show up on date night only because we didn't carve out another time for it.
Yeah. I think that's huge. It's what I noticed is that, again, they've been married 43 years. They've been working together 20, and there was an aliveness and a love for each other, but also like mutual respect. It was clear that they had found a way to like maintain boundaries and maintain their couple inside of a business. I think what we notice in when this goes sideways for us and for others is the business can be so all consuming. And I just really want to honor the boundaries that we saw present in that. Anything else you want to share about those folks, or move on?
I think they're just at a really cool season of like, now they're creating other businesses and doing other things. She's got some of her own stuff, he's got some of his own stuff, but they still have this core business together, and all of that flows from how they've navigated everything up into this point.
Yeah, they really, we're noticing couples at different stages of their entrepreneurial journey together, and this couple kind of reminded me like that almost the core business has become this holding company out of which that has so much strength, not only like income, but just resources, maybe admin support, everything else. So it's almost its own planet now, and out of it other stuff can arise. So as one of them starts a new business, they do so from the resources and the stability of the core business. That kind of reminds me, I mean, I'm thinking of us, right? Like we've got some similarities. And when we're running a real estate team, we're growing a real estate brokerage, and then kind of out of nowhere, but really out of like the depths of everything, you're like, and I want to become a published author, and the resources to make that happen, right? That feels like it's so different, but at its best, when we were at our best, right? Not every day was like this, but at our best, we were able to kind of gather all the resources from the core company to help be a resource for launching something new. And we were watching this couple do the same thing. So, all right, next couple. So they've been working together for about 8 years. And I guess the first thing I want to go to, and you can take it anywhere you want, is we noticed this. They were giving us a glimpse into how I think every or most entrepreneurial couples start a journey. So what I mean by that is most of the stories have this common theme of one partner being in the entrepreneurial business first. So so in this case, it was the wife. So she's working in the business. Husband's miserable at his job, or some version of that. Mm-hmm. And two things sort of seem to happen. One is that things are going well for her. She needs some help, and he is not loving where he's at. So there's a little bit of like a move away from, he's like, I could leave this, and you sure seem to need some support. Not that you're incapable, not at all like that, but just like, hey, as partners, we all want to support each other, right? We all want to see each other do better. And he was watching his wife thrive, but like, how can I help, right? How can I help it get even better? And so he stepped in. And the first thing that I noticed there is that in that sort of a situation, there isn't a whole lot of discussion yet about roles. It kind of goes like, we could maybe think of us, right? Because was a little bit of our story, you know, a little bit. But basically, Alice, you were in real estate first. You were doing great. You had an amazing first couple of years, and as I stepped in, one of the first goals was like, how do we keep Alice in her zone of genius? And the first goal there is simply you take kind of the rainmaker, or the person that is almost at the front of the company. Like if this was we were talking like about a musical group, it's like, who's the lead singer of the band? Keep them on the vocals. Like what do we have to do with everything else so that they can just be up there front of stage doing exactly what they do best and wowing the crowd? And that's a really common way for couples to get going, is like they pick one person that's going to be front of house, front of the stage, and then the other person just steps in this supportive role to help that. By the way, I can kind of say that I've also watched where that goes badly, but let me pause there. What did you notice in their story and how they were dividing roles up?
Well, yeah, just the normalcy of how the evolution happens. I don't think any couple says like, hey, let's just go into business together and let's start tomorrow. Like you just don't start something like that because the risk is so great. So one person starts, one joins in, and at some point, and I don't have the feeling that they were necessarily there yet, or maybe they've been through seasons of this already. I think the next season that hits is that the second spouse comes in to be helpful. And then at some point resentment builds up, or there's like, well, they're not necessarily in their zone of genius. So now how do you then grow from there? I think is the next question, because now you've got a second person in there who's not necessarily working in their zone of genius. They came in to be helpful, but that's not where they, necessarily need to be living.
I think that's
their
like,
roles.
that is the thing to watch out for, right? Is if as a couple, one of you's like, yeah, it's great, we work together, and they're so helpful. If that just continues forever, I just think there's some conversations that aren't being had. And it's like, sometimes you and I will be in a room and we will just be biting our tongue. And maybe we've been there, right? I'm gonna guess you're probably the one that bites your tongue more than I do if something isn't the way that you like it. But there's nothing worse than when resentfulness sort of builds up. I just think that can be cancerous to what ultimately you're trying to grow. So this is where if we were kind of having a coaching conversation, if you're a couple and you find yourself at the spot of like, well, yeah, that's kind of how we started. Like, I was doing good, but I got busy. And so they came in to help me. Start to ask the question of, what is their unique genius? Yeah. Like they've already helped to find out what yours is. That's why you're stepping more into it. And they're trying to take everything off of your plate. Well, spend some time, return the favor. And for us, Alice, that's when we started to grow a team.
Yeah. Like, this is where asking that question, like, what's the worst that's going to happen? The worst that's going to happen is you're going to find out they are in their zone of genius, and that's exactly where they need to be. Yeah. But to make that assumption that just because they're being helpful and you're happy that that's where they need to be is an error. And to assume that for any person that's their zone of genius today, that's going to continue to be their zone of genius into the future, is also somewhere we go awry. So having this be a continual conversation over and over again of like, just, hey, let's just do it. This might be a quarterly or a, semi-annual kind of check-in of, where are we, and are we still playing to our strengths? Because strengths change and likes change and desire changes and energy changes. So we need to keep looking at it and having that conversation.
Even the phrase zone of genius might have a shelf life. I think it has a really long one, right? I think if people will stay in their zone of genius, we have the longest possible shelf life. But I can think of seasons in our world where it's like, I might be great for this, but it is costing me something, right? Like, you might be amazing out with clients, but if you feel like it is costing you your relationship with your kids, or it's costing you your health, or it's costing you something else that, okay, I mean, health. No, I don't. Well, maybe I'll speak for myself. I don't consider like health my zone of genius, but if something in the business is costing me health, we still have a tension point. So a way to think about it is, we do this matrix, and if you're watching this, you want to see this matrix, reach out to us. But it's basically like the upper right quadrant is yes, what's in your zone of genius, but also what gives you energy. What is life-giving, and that can change by season. Something that didn't drain you before, you might hit a stage in your life, a stage with your kids or whatever, where now it starts to drain you, and those are the things to pay attention to. I think, I don't know about you, Alice, like the fact that we're meeting couples that have been at this for so long is just a reminder that this is a marathon, not a sprint.
Yeah.
And I realize that, like, we're looking for tools along the way of how do you refuel, how do you recalibrate? How do you realign? Like, this is a long race that we are wanting to run. And so these pit stops are necessary and happen. I was just going to say also about this couple, I don't know if you picked this up, but just the idea that when couples don't work together, right? You might be watching this. Maybe you're one of our Facebook friends and you don't work together. You're watching this just to figure out what we're randomly talking about here. You're like, oh my God, that's right. You guys work together. That is crazy. I can never do that. I feel very misunderstood by a lot of people. I'm like, is it weird that we like working together most days, right? Like, we know lots of people in the world that are like, I would never work with my spouse. And I don't think that we're anything special. I don't think that it's because we have any less arguments or get along better or anything else. But the couples that we have met, that the ones that like to work together, they're like, you either understand it or you don't. What was that? You read something from me this past week from somebody about that.
Well, just that, it's a way of life. Working with your spouse, like being life partners, business partners, it's a way of life, and only those that do it understand.
Yeah. It's so this couple is like, they get that a lot from folks of, how could you work with your spouse? They're like, how? I don't know. It comes more naturally than you'd think. Maybe you should try it. Okay. All right. Anything else there, or next couple? All right. Where do you want to start with these next ones?
This next couple, they were super fun. So we asked them what their secret was, and they're like, we play a lot.
Yeah.
They just do a lot of fun stuff. I think they just come off the slopes or something. We were talking to them.
Yeah. Not in real estate. There's a couple that had built several large businesses. Mm-hmm. Some more active, right? Like staffing companies across multi-states. Plenty of headaches inside of this. Some more passive would not be the word, but dozens and dozens and dozens of rental property doors. That's a different animal. It is absolutely a business. You just look at the P&L on that, and there's a lot of moving parts there. But yeah, that whole idea of, you could tell they were just having a lot of fun.
They were.
You could tell that anytime they hit burnout, it was probably this reminder of, like, we just need to get back to the fun. And inside of the fun, like, there's probably, it reminds me of, we haven't done them as frequently now, but we would have a season where we would do these intentions, and every quarter we would have kind of a different intention. And I think our favorite one, you remember this? You ready? You ready for it? All right. We get
to the fun
faster. All right. We're a little out of sync here, people, but don't mind us. We're on Facebook Live. We get to the fun faster. And it was this mantra that Alice and I would use for a season. It was true inside of our relationship. It was true inside of everything going on with our family and our kids. And it was actually also true inside of the business, right? Like, how can we get back to what was making this fun? And in seasons where there's any sort of burnout or just navigating stress, remembering that this can be fun was a key component. They also had a really fascinating perspective around, which would make sense in the couple that brings fun, around disagreement, or like, just, they're like, yeah, we've got different perspectives, and we don't view that as a weakness. We don't, like, the fact that we see it all differently, we don't think that's a weakness. We actually think that that's a strength. Uh, Folks might remember there's this image of a beach ball. I think Susan Scott from Fierce Conversations kind of coined this metaphor. Just so imagine one of those blow up beach balls that has like the stripes, a different color stripes, and if Alice throws that beach ball to me and I hold it and I'm looking at it, and on my side of the beach ball I see a blue stripe, I describe the world as blue. And if I throw it back to Alice, and when she grabs it on her, right in her viewpoint, it's purple, she describes the world as purple. The point is, we're all describing the beach ball from our point of view. And this couple, like they nailed that. They're like, yeah, we're really aware of different strengths and gifts we have. We're really aware that our personalities are different. And so we view that as like this complementary view of everything going on. And the fact that we bring different perspectives to it, we think that is our strength as a couple, not what is causing friction.
Yeah. They just didn't see anything negative about having arguments. They're like, there's nothing wrong with arguments. Now, I think, within that, it's like, this isn't about being unkind, being unkind to each other is okay. But, so there's a difference. Like you can still be kind to one another and have an argument. So the disagreements happening is because we are different people seeing things from different vantage points, and there's value in looking at things from all different angles. So being able to appreciate that and to acknowledge the differences in one another really made them stand out, and just how they navigate conflict. And then they also described, there are times where, one will say like, I think we should turn right. And one's like, I think we should turn left. And they're like, if we really find ourselves in this place that one of us wants to go right, one wants to go left, then we're like, okay, now we pause and we don't make a decision. One person's not going to just like railroad that and say, well, I said right, so we're going to go right. They're like, okay, wait a second. Like, because there's a reason that the other person is saying left. And so at that point, they just kind of take a time out and go into more conversations until it becomes more clear. And one person's like, you know what? Yeah, you know what? I'm still not convinced we should go left all the way, but like, I'm getting closer there, or this person moves more this way. So they take that as a sign to have more conversations before proceeding.
This is also the part of the conversation where we hadn't really gotten into, faith background or faith journey at all with this couple. And you kind of got this like pause, and they look through the Zoom screen, and they're like, well, we don't know where you guys are on this. And they're like, and the reality is, like, if one of us wants to go right and one wants to go left, we stop and pray about it. And God, what a reminder that was of I don't know as a couple how we get realigned if we don't find that we are both following the same source, right? If we're not both aligned, for Alice and I, that's Jesus, right? Like we're believers, and it felt good to be at church this morning. That is an opportunity to get realigned. And this was, I think you and I both got off that Zoom and like, hey, we have opportunity there, right? Of like all the times we're thinking left or right, and we're asking ChatGPT, and we're looking at the map and everything else, like what should we do here? And there might be a better way to get all that resolved. So I just want to acknowledge this couple. That was really powerful for us. So you made a huge difference there. Anything else with them, or you want to move on?
Yeah, keep going.
All right. So this last couple we actually brought on to a community call that we have for some other couples that are also on this journey, and we've done some retreats recently. And so as we've done these retreats, couples are like, we want to stay together and we want to keep these conversations going. So we're having calls a couple times a month. If you're interested in that, reach out. We'll share some details. But we had this couple on sharing inside of that community, and again, another awesome couple. I think what I took away were the fact that they had sort of rituals or habits, or there was just some really strong pillars inside of their relationship that if you're like, wow, how are they so in sync? you could look at these things and be like, well, of course, right? So we take for granted like the benefit of having shared values, a shared mission statement. Even they had this grateful exercise that was this kind of shared ritual. Any of those you want to talk on, I can share some of my notes from them, but any of those in particular that you remember?
Gosh, they were all so good. I mean, they pulled out their vision board, so they had visual representations of their mission statement, and their it was very congruent. Like when they would talk about their family and when they would talk about work, like there was definitely just this flow. And I think the way that they described it was just, not they're like, we don't believe in work-life balance, we believe in work-life synergy. And it was really like that was very practical. Like you saw that through that, like she ran over and pulled it off their wall.
Yep, it was right there. Yeah.
So that was super cool. Like just the physical, because a lot of people will say like, oh yeah, we have a mission statement. Let me go pull out my book, and they'll get out the book and like they'll read it. Like not only did they know it, like they had it hanging up, in this really cool, like, vision board sort of way.
Yeah. Yeah. Here's what I wrote down. I hopefully I got them right. I might not have. Here's what I wrote down about their values: family first, love God, be honest, be kind, be humble, and be grateful.
Yeah.
Family first, love God, be honest, be kind, be humble, be grateful. Yep. And then they had this exercise that they shared stories of having done this exercise with their kids since they were really young. And even down to like, they've got their kids' friends are over. It's like, we're still doing the grateful exercise, or they have friends over and they're like, it's time to put the kids to bed. We'll be back. We're doing the grateful exercise, or they do it with everybody. And I'm not sure if I got all these right, but it was basically 4 questions that they would answer every night. What are you grateful for? What do you love about life? What do you love about each other? And what do I love about myself? Right. So each child, each family member would answer, what am I grateful for? What do I love about life? What do I love about each other? And what do I love about myself? Mm-hmm. I talk about like a resourceful ritual to bring into a family unit. Like it was absolutely beautiful. And
well, then they didn't cave when a situation changed, like when kids would have friends over, or it was super late, or they were traveling. Like it was a consistent part of just who they are. Like they didn't alter that for anything.
Yeah. This couple is also, because we've been to the classes that they've taught on personality assessments, and in particular, probably the most accessible one out there for folks is the DISC. If you're like, we've never studied any of these, we don't really know where to start, the DISC, DISC, right? And there's 4 different personality types, and there's plenty of books written on them. I'm sure you could go to ChatGPT and say, make me up a free quiz to help me figure out my DISC style, and it'll do it, and you'll know and figure out if that feels right. But this is a couple that really understood themselves at a high level. Yeah. They understood each other at a high level. Mm-hmm. And so in so doing, they wouldn't, they let each other play to their strengths, right? Like they understand if this is somebody's strength, let them stay in that zone. It's a lot like where we started, several minutes ago on like zone of genius. But this is also how they started to build a team. And at one point in time, they had an indie brokerage, 20 people deep. They've had different size organizations over the years. But I think the ability to build out your team is, fundamental to that is understanding personalities, starting with yourself, then your partner, and then quickly learning about personality types to make sure that you're putting the right people on the right seats on the bus. Yeah. Anything else about that stood out to you?
They were very much, it's very evident that they're hard workers, but they were very much work hard, play harder.
Yeah.
Sorts of people. And just to see how that overlapped with the work-life synergy. Like, they're the kinds of people, like, are they working? Are they playing? You don't really know, but they're having fun, whatever it is they're doing.
Yeah. Yeah. That is, we finish these calls, and that's probably one of the most life-giving things, is that you can tell that an entrepreneurial couple is kind of firing on all cylinders when they're getting results in the world, but you can tell that they're having fun in the process, and in not this. And there have been seasons for us that we have not had fun. There have been seasons where we maybe thought we were having fun until all of a sudden the check engine light comes on in the relationship or the business or something, and you're like, okay, hang on, we need to do some diagnostics here. But I just think if you are an entrepreneurial couple, go grab a walk, go out to date night, go sit at a coffee shop and talk and be like, are we living this life by design? Do we have this work-life synergy where fun is sort of, we can weave this all throughout our business? It was so common with every couple, perhaps most so this last one. And not just fun, but also impact, right? They had, I think for them it was called Give Back Mission. I mean, if I wrote it down right, it was like $300,000 so far given to a charity. That is a type of fun, right? It is like legacy building fun, but you could tell this was all driving kind of every decision they had. And I think it's a cure to burnout in a lot of ways. And
I mean, because when you look at the longevity of this couple, I mean, she's been selling real estate for a really long time. Like, I think it's like 30 years. She started really young. And
it was longer. Yeah.
Like, that's a long time to still have zest and, just be really excited about what you're doing.
Yeah. Yeah. They also reminded us of a quote. How we met them, right, was through Howard Britton, Star Power. And so, of course, the conversation would not have been complete if there had not been a reference to Howard and his kind of classic line of get out of judgment and into curiosity. And wow, you talk about a tenant that if it exists inside of your marriage, especially as an entrepreneurial couple. We had a situation just a few days ago where I mean, I don't even know who. We'll say we were both in judgment, not curiosity. But I'll certainly say I was. But it's like we're just trying to solve a business problem. We're both doing the best we can, trying to make the best decision with the limited information and the limited resources, and knowing that you're trying your hardest and I'm trying my hardest, and we're trying to make a business decision together. And it is so easy in moments like that to have judgment and to not be open-minded. And this reminder to snap out of it, right? Get out of judgment and get into curiosity, and know that you are literally with your best friend, with your business partner, trying to create something great in the world and trying to create that great thing together. Yeah. I mean, it's a journey. So, anything else you want to add as we kind of
great place to wrap that up.
Yeah. Hey, we're looking for more couples. Anybody that if you're watching this, you're like, that is us. We're an entrepreneurial couple. You might think you have it all put together. Perfect. You might think you don't have it all put together at all. Fantastic. We definitely want to talk to you because you are totally normal. But what we have experienced is it can be lonely working on building this business together. And we notice this common theme of like, when you're an entrepreneurial couple, the health of your relationship is absolutely tied to the health of the business.
Yeah.
That is both great and absolutely terrifying, right? And it can be lonely of figuring out, like, then who do you talk to about that? And what we found is there are other couples that are on the same path, that are going down the same journey. Maybe they're a couple steps ahead, a couple steps behind, but we are all working on figuring out how to navigate this journey. And so if that's the journey you're on, we'd love to chat more. Please reach out to us.
And it's a shortcut. And who doesn't love a shortcut?
Absolutely. Absolutely. All right, guys. Happy Sunday. Take care.
Bye.